So after the mess of the time-traveling space Nazis was sorted, and the crew was given a chance to recover from what they'd been through with the Xindi, it was now time to actually get down to the new paradigm for Season 4. The plan was to make this the prequel that comes to mind when prequel comes up, something that shows the gradual transition to the world that we know. It was felt that this kind of take would require more long-form storytelling, arcs rather than standalone episodes, but nothing demanding a season-long odyssey like Season 3 had been. The episode begins with the Klingons finding a helpless shuttle, and of course being incredibly honorable, decide they're going to take it, hauling the unarmed crew off to be locked up. Only, they're not so helpless, as the Klingons first discover when they hit one in the solar plexus, and the guy doesn't even flinch. And this is long past the Worf gets his ass kicked phase in the series' history. Now when a Klingon hits you, you stay hit. The human prisoners decide to show how it's really done, disarming and beating up the Klingon guards, then storming the bridge and gunning down everybody, including J.G. Hertzler. Sure he was glad to spend the 6 hours or whatever it was in makeup for that cameo. Of course, while we're always glad to see Martok, when he's well written, i.e. not saying stupidly obvious things, everyone loves a return by Brent Spiner. We discover him in prison, and while this would fit in perfectly with the Brent Spiner seen in his web series Fresh Hell, this is actually an ancestor of Noonien Soong. You know, Data and Lore's creator. His daily routine of alone time and being alone is interrupted by Jonathan Archer, whom Soong instantly recognizes, likely in light of Enterprise's triumphant return.
What brings you here? They're naming the prison after you?
That would be silly. Archer Prison? What next? The Tuvok Penal Colony? The Cisco Penitentiary? Rikers Island? Okay, that last one was a bad example. The reason Soong's got all these papers everywhere is he occupies his time with theorizing on genetics, and he can't have a datapad because he's so brilliant he used the innocuous device to escape once. Though he is a Star Trek character, so that's to be expected. He goes through so much that it gets gathered up and hauled away, where supposedly it's being vaporized. There's obviously a lot of time and effort being put into this, so Archer wonders why he's wasting his time in this manner. Probably doesn't realize that you've got a lot of time when you're in prison. Archer repeats the concern. You know, the whole eugenics war thing. You start messing with genes and suddenly you've got warlords causing war. I mean, the answer really is in the name there. But that, of course, is why we had to get rid of them. And then we nuked ourselves. We're perfectly capable of starting our own global annihilation, thank you very much. The reason they're here is that the entire Klingon crew was killed, their bodies jettisoned into space, and there was human DNA on them. So naturally the Klingons blame Earth. Only Starfleet discovered the DNA matched that of an embryo taken by Soong, which led to his eventual arrest. Seems the kid's all grown up now and killing Klingons. Makes the father proud. He'd been raising the ones that he'd taken from Cold Station 12, gotten them to about age 10 by the time he was captured. Those kids are probably about 20 now, and Starfleet is concerned about what a bunch of genetic superweapons might be getting up to, which is why they want Enterprise to take Soong to try to find them and talk them into surrendering before they start another war, because the Klingons are sure spoiling for one. But all isn't well in the Augment camp.
A fine ship.
Pity I sent you out for tacos instead. Rakeen is the one in charge, and none too happy that Malik decided to just attack the Klingons. That's the kind of thing a leader should really decide. I'm all for power to the individual, but starting a war is probably a group discussion thing. Over on Enterprise, they're ready to go, so Soong is brought aboard, and we also begin on a T'Pol Tucker minor subplot, but I'm going to leave that on the side for this story. We have enough going on with the Augments and the Klingons. Plus, Archer's new chair.
I like it. We don't have time to go over all the details. Just, try not to hit that button.
Oh, what's it do? I'm not sure, Captain. Manual's super thick, and it's ridiculous that they think I know that many languages. I mean, they should just pick one and stick with it for the whole manual. In actuality, this is a different trip. The trip we now have convinces me he's a chief engineer, as opposed to the previous one who convinced me that he couldn't tell which hand was his left without giving him 4 tries first. Well, Enterprise is launching on a whole new mission now, so Archer feels he needs to commemorate it with a speech. Damn him.
Here we are again. Wouldn't have it any other way.
Holy sh... That's it? Not one stupid metaphor, not one puffed up bit of tripe, not a single mention of an animal just to say you're nothing like that animal? This really is under new management. To continue this trend, Archer immediately calls to Paulin to keep her informed of Klingon activities, and she brings up the Vulcans' attempts to find a diplomatic solution. Having covered Season 1 in our most recent Enterprise episode, this makes the difference all the more glaring. When you go from Season 2 of TNG to Season 3, there's a visual change to several aspects, and the stories got a lot better. Yet the departure with the final season of Enterprise is such that it's a pity we can't manipulate time ourselves. I mean, assuming we can't do anything meaningful with it. If we could convince all of the higher-ups, including Berman himself, to avoid the whole space Nazis thing. Have the end of the Xindi plot coincide with the end of the temporal Cold War, wrap it all up, and at the end of the episode, destroy the Enterprise. Yeah, I said it. Destroy the NX-01 and just cancel the series. Then relaunch it with all the benefits and none of the baggage of Enterprise. Call it Star Trek The Federation Chronicles or something like that, because that's what it would be. The gradual steps to form the Federation. That's what we're getting in Season 4. Because let's face it, Enterprise had such a rocky start that the name was doing more harm than good now. The news of the 4th season, as I said, was greeted with mockery. Time-traveling space Nazis? I expected nothing less from that piece of shit show. Because Season 4 Enterprise feels like Season 2 Deep Space Nine. It's not there yet, but it shows promise. It shows it wants to really grab hold of its premise and wring all the potential out of it. All the forced conflict of Enterprise can be forgotten now. It's a new series with the same people. And maybe a couple of new ones. I mean, I would have liked to have kicked Archer upstairs, have him be a recurring regular character, but leave the captaining to someone new. After all, this season features the NX-02 and its captain. Why not have her take command of her new ship, the NX-02, and Admiral Archer can assign the members of his old crew to help her, given their vast experience and the urgency of this Klingon situation. The same thing with Broken Bow, actually, that's kicked it all off. Repeating history, but in a good way. You know, like if you could go back and do American history all over again, but without the slavery thing. This episode is called Borderland because it's located in an area of space between the Klingons and the Orions. So it's a less than friendly location, and no surprise that they get ambushed along the way. What is a surprise is that they beam 9 people away and run off, including T'Pol. So Archer asks Sung what the hell is going on, and he explains that the Orions have likely brought the captives to a processing station to be turned into slaves.
You are now the property of the Orion Syndicate. Break the rules and you will suffer. Follow the rules and you will suffer less. Take it.
Well, he may be an evil slaver, but at least he's being honest. Thanks to Sung, they know where they can go to find their people, and he has a code to access their market. He used to trade with them for supplies. But to be safe, they put a tracking device in his neck so that he doesn't wander off. Although no word if it will explode a la Escape from New York. Anyway, T'Pol is first up.
I will name him George, and I will hug him and pet him and squeeze him.
So Sung and Archer check things out, but the problem is that everyone has these things on their neck that will explode if they stray too far. Like if they were, say, beamed away. So unless we just want to get back a bunch of headless bodies, we're going to need a plan here. While we work on that, Persis talks to Rakeen about Malik and the entire situation. Malik wants Persis, but she's only going to sleep with the strongest. So if he wants to get into her ripped-up pants, he needs to help topple Rakeen. Only she tells Rakeen that, and he is not too happy with the little upstart, and is going to make that point clear by killing the little shit. That should get the message across. So he goes to confront Malik, but it's actually a trap. He already has everyone on his side, so Malik is free to go stab Rakeen in the gut. Now, this violates their father's law about never harming each other, but Malik can square that away with that by saying, I really wanted to, though. During this, Archer buys Pierce, one of the kidnapped officers. He gets a bargain price for the guy, although it's no real surprise. He's a brand new crew member. At this point, he's only been trained to do one thing: die. They bribe one of the guards to deactivate, but let them keep the neck thingy so they can figure out how to deactivate all of them and save the rest. Yeah, it's going to have to be that way and not just buying their people back like with Pierce. T'Pol was already sold, remember. And besides, money spent on prisoner escape looks a lot better on the expense report than bought slaves. Oh yeah, you can explain it. You can put an asterisk in there or something, but it's still going to say bought slaves. And there will be a transaction log saying, yep, you bought slaves. And the pirates now have more resources to enslave more people. Nicely done, last hope of mankind. Well, T'Pol is about to be delivered to her Tellarite owner, and guessing by the look in his eye, you could definitely say he's a sexist pig, which is actually rather fitting for a Tellarite. But Archer and Sung have deactivated the restraints, so once T'Pol advertises that, a riot breaks out. Perfect for making your escape. In fact, Sung agrees with that so much, he makes an escape of his own, zapping Archer with one of those cattle prods, and his own neck for good measure, to take out the tracker. Everyone else gets beamed back, although not until after T'Pol kicks Big Show here right in the Little Show.
I'm not for sale.
You'd think a guy who pushes people around all day would wear a cup. Well, Sung puts up a good fight, but Archer finally manages to track him down and pick up the good doctor before he flees the station. And once he's locked up, Archer reads him the riot act. When it comes to indignation, well, that's one area where Archer can finally stand toe-to-toe with the other captains. Sung said he didn't want to have to betray them like that, but he needs to get to his children, especially with them mixing things up with Klingons now. And Sung makes the point that Earth is so overcompensating for the eugenics war that they're allowing treatable diseases to be left untreated, like the one that killed Archer's father. Oh, you remember that. Archer's father dying before he got a chance to use his engine. It was only the entire motivation for him being a dick for 2 seasons. It's not a bad point. Even if you don't approve of what the augments are, the Federation will remain fearful of all of the good it can do. The existence of Julian Bashir, for instance, is a demonstration that their axiom, superior ability breeds superior ambition, isn't universal. Nurture plays a pretty strong part in things too. But as with the Prime Directive, it gets treated like dogma rather than a guiding principle with nuance to it. There's room between nothing and Khan! Well, the Orions catch up to Enterprise, and they seem to be a match for it. But unfortunately for everybody, a new ship enters the fray, Klingon one. They drive off the Orions, but as expected, this is the Augments, and they want Sung. Although Malik has to argue with Archer first. That's the price of admission. He quickly realizes how tedious that is, and so decides that a demonstration is in order.
You see? Even with a warning, you're not fast enough.
Let him go.
Well, that doesn't prove anything. Archer's the most easily beaten up person in all of Star Trek. Jonathan Archer's what happens if a punching bag wishes it was a real boy. Anyway, the Augments take Sung by force, although he insists that the Enterprise crew be left alone. Their ship is too banged up to be a threat right now, and there's no need for any killing. Well, any more than we've already done so far. Sung's ambition isn't conquest after all. It's a whole new world for Augments, and maybe a chance to upgrade their fashions a little bit. Next week, the story continues with Cold Station 12.